I know that many of you, like me, are fans of the classic war film Zulu. Maybe you remember that as the garrison prepare for the very first Zulu attack, when the command is given to fix bayonets, one young soldier drops his, receiving the reprimand from his corporal, "You slovenly soldier, Hitch." In the film, Fred Hitch comes good. Shot by a Zulu sniper, he and his wounded corporal crawl along the barricade, handing out ammunition to the defenders. And in real life, that really did happen. Fred Hitch, nicknamed the Brickie, was one of 11 defenders at Rorke's Drift, awarded the Victoria Cross. But he did a lot more than hand out ammunition to earn his VC. And his life afterwards, as an invalid veteran on Civvy Street, was a roller coaster that included having his medal stolen, being accused of fraud, working for the world's oldest security company, and a funeral that really was fit for a hero. This is the story of what happened to Fred Hitch VC after Rorke's Drift. 22-year-old Hitch had only been in the British Army for less than 2 years when he found himself fighting for his life as the Zulu Army attacked Rorke's Drift mission station. Born in Southgate, Middlesex, at the time a sort of semi-rural area on the edge of London, he started working life as a farm labourer. By the time he enlisted in 1877, he was a bricklayer's assistant, hence his army nickname, Brickie, and he could only sign his papers with an X. Joining the 2nd Battalion, 24th Regiment of Foot, by the end of the following year, Hitch was in South Africa, where both battalions of his regiment were preparing for the Anglo-Zulu War. Whilst the majority of the 24th Regiment accompanied Lord Chelmsford on his ill-fated invasion into Zululand, Hitch's B Company, 2nd Battalion, were posted to guard the supply depot at the former mission station at Rorke's Drift. It was here, on the afternoon of the 22nd of January 1879, whilst Hitch was making tea for his company, that two breathless riders galloped in to deliver the astounding news of the Zulu victory over the British at Isandlwana, and that they were now heading directly for Rorke's Drift. Hitch was ordered by his company commander, Lieutenant Bromhead, onto the hospital roof to act as a lookout. He hadn't been there long when he saw the Zulus starting to arrive. Having shouted down his report, Hitch took a pot shot at a distant Zulu commander. The young Londoner missed, but afterwards claimed to have fired the very first shot of the battle. He certainly now attracted the attention of the Zulu marksman, who opened fire on the exposed lookout on top of the thatched roof. Hitch rapidly descended, fixed his bayonet, and unlike the film, without any mishaps, and took up a position on the barricades. After the initial Zulu attacks, the officer in command, Lieutenant Chard, ordered the garrison to fall back to an inner defensive line. Hitch, along with 5 other men, joined Lieutenant Bromhead, holding a gap where the defensive line hadn't actually been completed. The Zulus spotted this weak point. Not only were Hitch and the other men now subjected to repeated Zulu charges, but they were also fired on by the Zulu marksman up on the hill behind them. 4 of the small party were killed, and Corporal William Allen shot in the left arm. Only Bromhead and young Hitch were now holding the gap. Suddenly, a Zulu sprang forward, grabbing Hitch's bayonet in an attempt to wrest the rifle away from him. Brickie Hitch frantically slipped a cartridge into the breech and fired from point-blank range. Another Zulu rushed past Hitch and charged Bromhead from behind with his assegai ready to thrust. Despite having an empty rifle, Hitch shouted at the warrior, who turned to meet him. He then raised his rifle to his shoulder as if to shoot, and the Zulu warrior promptly retreated. It was a lucky escape, but Hitch's luck was not to last. In yet another assault, it was the turn of a Zulu to aim his rifle at the young Londoner, and that rifle was loaded. Hitch was hit at point-blank range in the right shoulder. Later, over 36 pieces of shattered bone were removed from his shoulder blade. With his right arm completely useless, Bromhead handed him his revolver, and Hitch now continued to blast away at the enemy, with his officer reloading as needed. By now, the hospital was under attack, and Hitch and wounded Corporal Allen ran to the hospital wall, communicating with the defenders inside, and then assisted the wounded and the defenders, dropping down an opening 6 feet above them. catching them as they dropped. Private Robert Jones was the last man out, and he and Hitch now had to run 30 yards across no man's land to reach the inner defences. It was now that, just as in the film, Hitch and Corporal Allen took it upon themselves to pass ammunition to their fellow defenders, although in real life they were assisted by an army chaplain, later known as Ammunition Smith, who didn't appear in the film at all. Finally, 4 hours after being wounded in the shoulder, thirsty, tired, and in shock from both the pain and loss of blood, Hitch finally passed out. When he came to, he found the fighting was over. At the end of the film, there is a scene where Colour Sergeant Bourne conducts a roll call, and when Hitch doesn't answer his name, the NCO delivers one of the great lines of the film. "Hitch, I saw you. You're alive." Great cinema, but it didn't happen. What did happen, however, was that Hitch, in the sickbay, was visited by Lord Chelmsford, who informed him that he'd been recommended for the Victoria Cross. He was sent back to recuperate in England, travelling home on the troopship HMS Tamar. Now, some of you might remember this same HMS Tamar from my story about the Battle of Hong Kong in 1941. Anyway, back to Hitch in 1879. He ended up at Netley Military Hospital on the Solent, just outside Southampton. And it was here that on the 12th of August 1879 he received his Victoria Cross from Queen Victoria in person. But Private Frederick Hitch's soldiering days were over. With a ruined right shoulder, he was invalided out of the army just 2 weeks later. Despite a £10 a year annuity as a VC holder and a similar sum for a disability pension, exactly how was a semi-literate bricklayer's assistant with one useful arm supposed to survive in the harsh realities of Victorian Civvy Street? Because many didn't. As Kipling wrote, "It's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy go away, but it's thank you Mr Atkins when the band begins to play." Hitch, however, was fortunate enough to join the Corps of Commissionaires. The Corps was established in 1859 as an employment agency to help alleviate the destitution that many veterans faced in Victorian society, having lost a limb fighting for Queen, country and empire. Dressed in distinctive blue military-style uniforms with peaked caps, these former soldiers, disciplined and with a certain bearing, were perfect for roles such as watchmen, messengers, doorkeepers and porters. The Corps of Commissionaires is still in existence to this day. Renamed Corps Security, it's the oldest security company in the world. This stable employment probably kept Hitch from the workhouse. And if you think that is a melodramatic, headline-grabbing comment, at least one other VC recipient from Rorke's Drift did end up in the workhouse, as did other VC heroes, as covered in my episode on the men who were stripped of Britain's highest military honour for having fallen on hard times. His role as a commissionaire probably also gave Fred the financial security to marry Emily Maurice in July 1881. They would go on to have 11 children, 3 of whom died young. Sometime in the late 1880s, Hitch obtained the position as commissionaire at the prestigious Imperial Institute in London. Located on Exhibition Road in South Kensington, close to the museums and the Albert Hall, it had been established to mark Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee in 1887, and its role was to foster commercial relationships across the empire. It was demolished in the late 1950s to make way for an expansion of Imperial College nearby, although following a public outcry led by the Poet Laureate Sir John Betjeman, the main tower remains to this day. From there, Hitch moved on to another prestigious appointment at the Royal United Services Institute in the West End. It was there that in July 1901 he was hospitalised, having fallen from a ladder. When he returned to work, he discovered that his VC had been ripped off his overcoat. The angry Hitch held the Institute responsible for the theft, but the United Services made a dramatic counterclaim. They accused Hitch of deliberately faking his fall and hospitalisation to cover up for the fact that he'd quietly sold his medal to raise some extra cash. A blame game ensued. Eventually, in 1907, one of his sons complained to the War Office about his father's treatment, and Fred received a replacement VC from Lord Roberts later that year. Interestingly, he had to pay for that replacement and also sign a declaration that, should the original ever be found, the replacement would be handed back. Maybe not surprisingly, back in 1901, Hitch felt aggrieved at the accusation by the Institute of faking the theft and resigned. Taking his savings, he purchased 2 horses and a hackney carriage, and in the census later that year, Frederick Hitch was listed as a cab proprietor, living with Emily and 4 of their children in the parish of St John in Fulham. But the days of horse-drawn cabs were coming to a close. With the arrival of the motor car, he sold up his horses and joined the General Motor Cab Company at their depot based in Chiswick, West London. In an article in 1911, the Daily Telegraph claimed, probably rightly, that he was the only taxi driver in London and probably in the UK with the Victoria Cross. But even now, his roller coaster life in Civvy Street continued. We don't know why, but for some reason, he and Emily were by this time living apart. In the 1911 census, Fred was recorded as living with his eldest daughter, Louisa, and her family in Chelsea, whilst Emily was living in a different property and had taken in 3 lodgers to make ends meet. They would never reconcile. 2 years later, Fred had moved to Chiswick, where he was still working as a taxi driver. It was there, on the 6th of January 1913, that he died of pneumonia. He was just 56. Frederick Hitch VC was laid to rest the following week at Chiswick Old Cemetery with full military honours. As befitted a hero from Rorke's Drift, his old regiment, now the South Wales Borderers, were present. They included 2 of his sons. Frederick, his eldest, who had served in the Anglo-Boer War, and Charles, who had also served in both that war and would also serve in the First World War. His VC, or at least his replacement VC, is on display at the Regimental Museum in Brecon. But probably the most incredible spectacle at his funeral was the massed turnout of London cabbies. Estimates claim over 1,000 London cabbies came to pay their respects to both a loved colleague and a VC hero. Every year, at their annual dinner, the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage Drivers present an award for bravery. Recent recipients include Darren Kenny, the London cabbie who rushed to the aid of the public during the London Bridge terrorist attack in 2017. The name of that award? The Fred Hitch Award for Bravery. The 22-year-old semi-literate soldier who fought bravely at Rorke's Drift, awarded the Victoria Cross, which controversially went missing and had to be replaced. A disabled veteran saved from the workhouse by the world's oldest security company. The only London, if not British cabbie, to hold Britain's highest medal for valour, and whose coffin passed through a guard of honour of hundreds of fellow taxi drivers. It seems that Fred Hitch was not such a slovenly soldier after all. If you love learning about the people and events that made Britain such an incredible country, not just the battles, but the wider events through the centuries, then you might enjoy my free weekly newsletter. This week's, for instance, I was looking at the doomed Franklin expedition to the Arctic in the 1840s. Start getting your copy by clicking on the link in the description, and let's keep proudly sharing stories from British history.